the moment that we start to record, and it's like, guess what?
I'm on fire.
I'm on fire.
I'm overheating. Tell me about it.
My computer's a fucking professional. I'll tell you that right
Yeah.
now. It knows
Yeah,
exactly when.
yeah. It knows that today is Thursday, June 10th, 2020, and this is the Producer's Happy Hour. And today is all about art department, Christian.
It is in Lawrence. It's 2021.
Did I do it again?
It's okay.
I
You
think
know
I'm
what?
I
We're
think
only
I'm per-
halfway into the year.
I'm I think I'm perpetually stuck in 2020. I don't know if I can ever mentally get out of it. No, I can. I can. I can.
No, we're okay. As of July 1st, we will.
Yes. Yes,
We're
promise.
we're two producers on opposite coasts. Lawrence Lewis is in LA, and I'm Sister Christian in New York City. And we're chatting over drinks about what it means to be a good producer. Understanding these days, it's more important than ever.
Oh, yes, it is. And we want to hear from you. Whether you're a producer or a PA or a crew member of some sort, we want to hear from you. So join the conversation at producershappyhourgroup.com or email us at producershappyhour@gmail.com. Send us your questions, your comments, your ideas for the show. If you want to be on the show, let us know. Anything you want.
And more importantly, and most importantly, and equally as important, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Because of, that thing that we know about algorithms and shit, it helps people like you find us. And then
Yes,
we can help everybody out there.
exactly. And if you have questions for us, please join us for office hours. Again, the show's not
Office
just for
hours.
producers. Yeah, the show's not just
Mm-mm.
for producers. It's for everybody on the crew. And even though our schedules are insanely busy right now, Christian, I actually do have somebody who wants office hours, but I just have not been able to set it the
Ooh.
time. But I promise it's going to happen. We believe in mentorship on the show and sharing information in this business. So if you're new to the industry or you're stuck somewhere in your career, or you just want to chat and you want some advice, hit us up. Same email, producershappyhour@gmail.com. Just let us know you'd like to have office hours with us.
Yes, and I'm very excited. If somebody wants to, I'm very excited. We should talk about this afterwards and make a time.
Yes, indeed. All right, Christian,
Mm.
what are you drinking? It's happy hour.
Oh, tell me about it. Today,
Yeah.
I decided that I have been working so hard that I got a bottle of good champagne and I'm drinking it down. You know how I feel about good champagne. Like every time I'm in LA, everyone, and I'm at an Airbnb, and if Lawrence happens to come over, there's a great bottle of champagne
Some
ready to
kind of
go.
lovely champagne. Yes, that's
Yeah.
very true.
Well, yes, it's because, like why would you do that to your body? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
deserve, like if you're putting trash in your body, then you're gonna feel like trash.
Your
So,
body is a temple. Your body is a
yes.
wonderland.
So
Yes.
think about that when it's choice alcohol or choice drugs, except for, let's say, Coors Light, that is always good. What are you drinking today,
I don't know
Lawrence?
about that because I'm not drinking a Coors Light. I'm drinking an IPA.
I
Yes,
could have
an
guessed.
Elysian Space Dust is what it's called. One of my
Oh.
favorites, and it's just been too much of a day to make a fancy cocktail. But stay tuned for all the exciting fancy cocktail recipes we'll be bringing to you on this show at some point in the future, maybe.
Stay tuned. You got to listen for next week or the next.
Or the
Who knows when
next.
it'll drop? Exactly.
All right, Christian, it's been another week. We were late last week. We were late a week and a half with last week's show because we've been so crazy busy. But here we are today.
Hmm.
How are you? What are you doing?
Hmm.
What's going on in your world?
It's been, I have to say, shout out to Josh Jupiter, who
Mm.
posted this long post on CoPros. Hi, Josh, who has been
Hi,
a guest on the
Josh.
show, and he's a friend of Lawrence's and mine. And he nailed exactly what, we've been talking about too, and how everything is frantic right now and just feels, the energy is
Mm.
quite frantic. And then now I'm getting from production companies who are asking me to look at their budgets or to budget things is, do we have to really test? Do we have to? Well, what if we're in this
Oh,
state? Are
yeah.
we testing? And I'm like, as much as I'd love to be the authority and expert on testing, we should still follow the state guidelines. There's still a lot of research involved on whether you can drop testing or COVID protocols entirely or not. So I just, either refer them to a CCO to talk to or reach out to their permit office, or I just, to be honest, I'm not up on every single state or what the local
No,
practices are
no,
or anything like
it's
that. And it's exhausting yet again.
it's exhausting.
So I'd like to address for just a moment that I personally have felt in the last 8 weeks of talking and even doing the podcast, that every time I'm speaking, I feel like my exhaustion is part of the show. It's like a third fucking
I
person over
know,
here
right?
like talking. And I want to apologize right now to everybody, because if I'm tired of hearing myself be exhausted and talk about this, I can imagine that the audience is too. And it's just, I think we're in this for a little bit longer, and figuring out how to navigate this right now has been really
Hmm.
tough for me. How are you doing? There you
Well,
go. What do you do with
there
that?
you go. Yeah. Wow. I don't know how to
Yeah.
compete. How to we don't compete.
No.
I don't know how to
Well,
respond.
except for last week when I won the union non-union
Oh,
contest,
I
but go
don't
on.
think I don't know if you won, man. We have to review the tapes.
Okay,
Review the
fine.
tapes, rewind them. Yeah, we do complain a lot on the show, but I think that is a big part of this industry, right? Like,
Well, I mean, I hate the word complain. I feel like what we're
it's
doing
true.
is I'm feeling like I'm starting to tinge on negative and exhaustion
Mm,
in a way
mm,
that is, I don't want to complain, because I do think that we do choose to do this for a living, but I
yes.
also do think that it is exponentially harder than we thought it would be coming out.
Yeah. Very good. Very well said. Much more astute than what I was saying. But we do have the tendency in this industry to relieve our stress and our frustrations with various jobs amongst each other. It's a hard thing to talk to your
Yeah.
spouse or friend or significant other that's not in the business, and they just don't
Yeah.
understand what it means when, the product arrived late, or, they just don't understand. So, we do vent and we do relieve those kind of frustrations here on the show. But again, you're correct. We don't want it to sound negative. Obviously you had an emotional moment on last week's episode, but I think it's
Oh,
great
you
that you're,
remember?
oh, I remember. I think it's great that you feel safe enough to share those emotions, because
Okay.
we spent a lot of time over the past year talking about how important it is to pay attention to our mental health by being able to cry on the show or, confide something about how you're struggling. I think that's really important, and it sets a great precedent for us, for me at the very least. Maybe some listeners out there that know it is okay to, sometimes you just gotta let it all out, because this industry has a tendency of being all consuming and taking over your life. So this is a softness, Christian.
It is. And what do we call it? The shit championship? Like, who gets to race to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
top of the
yeah.
shit pile of, like, the worst
Exactly.
thing ever? Like, why are we competing for the
Yeah,
worst experience that we do
it's
when we're
bizarre. It's
production
bizarre.
people? I know. And so I'm very aware of myself right now and how it's struggling. And maybe struggling is a little, well, struggling to find the positive, the way that I can turn the conversation that I'm having, because a lot of EPs are, negative right now about the prospects of client,
Hmm.
jobs and discussions they're having. So I think that they do look to us to be positive or figure out a way to do it. And yes, I try to find the positive in when I can, but I'm
Hmm.
also try to be realistic, because I think it does us all a disservice if we don't tell the people that we're bidding for or working for that they can't do the job for the money, or that you personally
Yeah,
can't. Maybe they need to find somebody else.
yeah, which I've had to do several times this year.
Yeah.
Some did not go so well,
I
but
can only imagine, because you're amazing. And so, to like, the disappointment alone, and like,
yeah,
and telling somebody you can't do something. Hmm.
yeah, and I can no longer take on a job that I just don't see me executing the way that the expectations are. And yeah, I'd rather be honest and be upfront and say, I'm not the right producer for this job. Thank you for the offer, but it doesn't always go for well. Before we move on, I want to say one thing in terms of how I am. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm busy. It's nutty. There's
Hmm.
a lot going on, but blessed to be working, blessed to be healthy, blessed, to be amongst friends again and
Hmm.
see people and hug people and that is giving me so much life, and that's great. And carving out more free time, more personal time is a goal of mine this year, not overworking myself, even though I kind of am overworking myself right now. But come August, I'm going to take a little pause. And a reminder for...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
August is my birthday month. So I
Yeah.
think I'm just going to take the whole month. Maybe.
Holy
We'll see.
shit balls. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. But
Maybe I'll take
one
August too.
you might have to come to LA. I might have a bit of a party. So we can talk. But one reminder for everybody is check your passport, guys. It's like 6 months to get a passport renewed. I'm doing it right now. Pay the expedite fee. It's still 4 to 6 weeks with the expedite fee. You know, we've all just been sitting around, not going anywhere. And, you know, those travel jobs are going to start popping up. So check your passport because it's a long time to get it turned around. That's all I wanted to say.
Nice.
This is it. It's time for art department conversations. Now, there's a couple things that I want to talk about because I think art department for a lot of people is a big mystery, right? They operate kind of by themselves. They're self-sustaining. And a lot of producers and production teams don't really know the intricacies involved in all of it. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I have some understanding as to how the structure works.
Well, you do know too, Lawrence, that I, for a few years, decided that I would try production designing and art directing in New York too. So I have a lot of interesting takes on that department as well.
Good. Okay, so let's break this down. There's always a lot of talk about production designer versus art director and what that means. And really, art director, from my experience, I started in feature films. It comes from the feature film world, where your art director is your second to your production designer, and they do a little more of the nitty-gritty execution more than the production designer does. That's my understanding of those two roles. In commercials, sometimes you have an art director, sometimes you have a production designer. They're basically the lead. If that's the only one at the top, that's just the lead of the department. I think a lot of people put art director as the title on a budget when the art department's really small.
Yes.
Right.
Or yeah, like when you're like, I just need a really strong prop master who can shop. Is what I've heard before, and you're just like, okay, so we're telling. It's like calling a production manager a producer when they for a junior producer. Yeah,
exactly.
when they're bumping up or something. Or I've heard art director on non-union and production designer on unions. I've also heard production, and along the same lines, production designers usually make over 1,200, where art directors can make anywhere from 800 to 1,200. So it's really
exactly.
I think it's a mindset.
It is, and in the non-union world, you're a lot more flexible with those titles. And like you said, getting a prop master to do a little decorating, obviously in a union job, you'd have to break that up. But speaking of that, then there's also the coordinator, right? Who is like, if you do have a production designer on a feature film, you'd have a production designer, an art director, and a coordinator. So it's just
kind of an assistant art director, I think, is
or
what
an assistant
art coordinators are getting called these days. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that's to avoid a union thing?
I think the unions have claimed assistant art director, or I think that you get a different. I think that a production or art coordinator isn't always covered, where an assistant art director is. So I think it just depends on whatever contract you're working under.
That makes sense. Set decorator on a union job, if there is set dressing, you have to have a set decorator, and they're the ones that go out and decorate the set. They find everything that goes, but they can also have shoppers as well, right? Some jobs are so big that you have a set decorator and then you need a team of shoppers because it's just not doable for one person.
Well, this is where the New York and LA get very confusing between production between productions. Believe me, when I started working out in LA, I was like, what the fuck? And why are there so many people? What the hell is a lead man? And so in New York on commercials, art PAs drive trucks. And so do PAs drive the camera truck and all of that kind of stuff in New York and do pickups or whatever. And so the set decks, Local 52 requires that if you have any shopping to be done, the art director or production designer cannot shop. You have to have a Local 52 set deck on to shop.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the prop master could pick up a couple of things, but they're not allowed to shop either. And they also don't do pickups. It's very interesting.
Wow.
But the prop department has to do protection.
Oh, like like layout board and
Yes.
yeah, yeah, no, that I know that came from
They
that
hate
also.
it.
Yeah, that was also a thing in feature films. There
Hmm.
was here it's Local Lady on
Hmm.
feature films. It was the grip department that did
Oh.
protection, set protection. Very interesting.
And I can say that, like anytime I see a co-pros posting or, a wear spot posting of like, anyone know of a good layout board company in New York? I just giggle to myself because there's no such thing. There's just not. Like,
Uh-huh.
and
You
and
just
that
don't
that's
have
not
it.
it's yeah, exact. I only giggle not because of, the question. It's just more about my experience with hearing props complain about it. And I'm like,
um
nope, but I know the crews wish there was.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I think set decorators and shoppers, LA's so spread out and you have to
hmm.
cover so much ground. I think that's
Right.
why we
I
have a
see.
set decorator and all these shoppers because, and budgets now, what you get like 2 days, 3 days. So it's like, yeah,
To shop for 4 rooms in a house, it's nutty. I
yeah,
know.
yeah. Lead man. So in on union jobs in New York, were there lead men or is that
No,
not?
I don't even know. I didn't even know what that was until I started working in LA.
Ah, interesting. So yeah, your
No,
lead man is kind of in charge of all your set dressers and swing gang, and knows when we need trucking and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's your art
interesting.
cord here, by the way.
Really, huh.
Yeah.
New
Yeah,
York meets
on
L.A.
commercials. But like it feels like commercials sometimes are an afterthought when it comes to
Yeah, yeah,
slapping it
for sure,
together.
for
Yeah.
sure. And then of course the swing gang came from feature films where you're swinging between the various sets and at the art prop houses, right? So
Right.
you're swinging
Hmm.
back and forth, usually
Hmm.
leaping ahead because on features you're swinging forward doing tomorrow's set while the main crew's on
Right.
today's set. Yeah. Then you got your props department.
Right, which is perpetual movers is what I call them. Like
Yes. Yeah.
it's like they're
Perpetual
moving
movers.
your house
Yeah.
every day.
Every day, packing it up, setting it up, packing it back, and putting it down. Then you have your prop team, which is kind of it operates as a different department, even though it's the same. It's still all local 44. But in terms of staffing, if you didn't have any set dressing, which is almost no job ever, but sometimes it might be a tabletop job. It's just a prop person and their team handling product. You can
Hmm.
kind of do that, but they're a little bit of their own department as well. So yeah, that's the structure. Now let's really talk about our department.
Yes, because I would like to dive a little bit deeper and talk about the culture and the differences between production and art department. In
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, I think that when companies do not quite understand art department and they choose to bid them without I think the best way to go is to have your production designer on and have them budget the job. Like they
Yes.
know how much things are going to cost and what they need. Then, if it's too much, obviously you can work with them on trying to find a way to cut something or change creative or whatever it is. But that's the way to go. What I've seen over the years is a number slapped in and then a lump sum given to the production designer and say, you have $50,000 to do this, make it work. And I think that that's relegating a creative team into a box of a stressful box of make it happen, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, I know that for a very long time, for culture wise, we producers, and I know I remember seeing this a lot when I was a production manager, would lie to art department and tell them they only had so much because art was always over. And it was like, well,
Mm.
they're always over because they don't have the right amount of money to do the job. And so you're protecting for them to be over in a sense because you've not given them the amount of money that they need to do it.
Yeah.
And that would be avoided if everybody was honest and upfront from the beginning. And then they created this culture of production versus art. And then
Mm-hmm.
you've got this, well, I don't know what they're doing over there. Like it just becomes a thing, or like, why do they need so many Then it's just a, and so I tried very hard from a very early time to be like, oh, we have 11 PAs on in production. They have two and they need help. So
Yeah.
offer to the art coordinator, like, hey, we can do some of your pickups if you need. It
Mm-hmm.
shocks them, believe me, and they may not
Oh
trust you
yeah.
in the beginning because
They
they've
may
been
not.
burned before. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very important to know that everyone's a team, and why wouldn't you want every department to succeed?
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
always felt like to me that a lot of producers set art department up to fail.
And you mentioned, when producers would hold back money from the art department, that turned on itself, because then there was a culture of production designers saying, hey, all producers are holding money back. They don't give you the whole budget.
Exactly.
So there's more money to spend, and they operate that way.
And they would just go over. And then
they would just go over.
Yes, there's a whole branch of people out there right now who are like, oh, production's lying. Even though they say they don't have any more, they have more.
Yeah, totally. And these days,
there isn't any. I mean, even showing somebody, even sitting them down in front of your hot budget and showing them
look, this is the entire budget.
Yeah, they don't believe you. And so it's perpetuating itself at this point. And I also can say that when I tried my hand at production design, because I thought, whatever, if somebody didn't know me when I walked onto set, the way that I was treated was really poorly. Especially by production, I was just like, wow. Or on a tech scout, the grip would look at me and be like, oh, a lady production designer? That means I'm going to have to do all your work. I know. And I would walk into the tech scout with a little list for electric and a little list for grip saying, hi, I need these practical bulbs if that's no problem. And I need this. And they would all be like, oh, shit, oh, this is great. And you're like, well, yeah, I don't want to spring it on you on the shoot day. But I mean, I tried, but in the end, I mean, the culture has just been set. And I feel like I've been on a mission for so long to change it that I think we can, if we decide that art department are people.
Mm-hmm.
And we can begin to change and have discussions and understand. And we don't have to do the back. I mean, it's so much less work than to do the back and forth. And then I know that in a couple of times in my career, I've been given a working budget from the production company.
Uh-huh. Oh,
and that working budget. Yeah. And it's made me feel like an asshole because you didn't trust me.
You didn't trust me. Exactly.
And I'm going to protect your money. So why are we doing, if I feel like that, then why am I making every art department out there feel like that every time
Exactly.
I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
there was also a moment when art coordinators, I don't know what happened, but art coordinators started making more money than production coordinators, and
production managers too,
and getting more money than production managers, and people were getting pissed. Simply because the word coordinator was in their title. Production managers felt like, well, they should be making less than me. And the amount of work that they do and the things that they pull off, you think about, you walk into the set that was just someone's home, and in 2 hours, it's been transformed into some other kind of living room. And then at the end of the day, it's all gone. It's flipping magic what art departments can pull off with less people than our entire crew. And just one kind of office coordinator, manager type person. So
but that's what they are. They're everything. They're a producer. They're a PM. They're a coordinator, and they're a PA. And you give them one day to wrap all that shit up. And then you complain about their time cards not being right or the POs not being right. It's like, again, if you haven't given this person enough time to do every single thing and do it perfectly, then how can you complain that it's not done right?
Exactly. But your comment about being handed as a producer a working budget that's not the real budget is so insulting, and turning that around. Why are we doing that to our department? You're spot on. You won this one. I'm not going to give you last week, but I'm going to say
Well, I think that if we all had the grace and the strength and the confidence to understand or put ourselves in other people's shoes and know how we don't like to be treated, why would you treat somebody like that? That's all.
Exactly.
But thank you. I've won, everyone. Please mark this in your calendars. Producers Happy Hour was created with the help of Christopher Daniels, who is a treatment designer, and he created our logo and branding.
And Kyle Puccia, who's a music composer for film, TV, and commercials. He created the show music you're listening to right now.
And Eric Beals has edited this episode and made us sound so much smarter than we are.
Oh, yes, he did. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back next week.
And keep being safe out there.
Yeah. Send us your voice recordings or your emails, producershappyhour@gmail.com.
Lawrence, how do people reach you directly?
Two ways, voiceoflawrence.com for my lovely voiceover work, or lawrencetLewis.com for producing. Christian, how about you?
SisterChristianProduces.com.
Bye, y'all.
See you.